This is my third attempt at filming this video, so we're doing so great. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a lovely day. In this video I wanted to share some of my favourite books that I read this summer. Honestly, this summer was actually really good for me in terms of the books I've read because I enjoyed the majority of them, and honestly I could probably make a whole video talking about them because I have something good to say about each one. But if I did that, we would be here for a very long time, which wouldn't be ideal. So I just decided to pick top 5 favourites that I wanted to talk about in this video. Just a heads up, this is going to be spoiler free, so do not worry if you haven't read any of these books because I'm not going to ruin them for you. Definitely let me know down in the comments or over any social media if you have read any of the books I'm about to mention, and if you like them or you dislike them, as well as your favourite reads from this summer. But yeah, let's just get on with this video, and these books are in no particular order, pretty random. Just let's start with the first one. So the first book I want to talk about is Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the first book in the Illuminae Files trilogy, and I know this book is pretty popular in the book community, so I'm so glad that I finally managed to pick it up. There's a lot of hype surrounding this series, and let me tell you that it was definitely worth it. If you do not know what this book is about, it is a young adult science fiction dystopian novel set in space, and basically there is a war, I believe, between two major organizations, and what happens is that this tiny little planet gets caught in between it, and it is basically destroyed and many people massacred, with only some being able to escape on the rescue spaceship sent for them. We follow two of these survivors, Katie and Ezra. The plot really picks up when it is discovered that a deadly plague or a disease has begun to spread on one of the ships, while at the same time the artificial intelligence that operates the ships is not really acting the way it's supposed to. So really the main objective of Ezra and Katie is to survive and to reach a safety point, while also trying to discover the secrets that the authorities are hiding from them. So this is a really intense read, and I really enjoyed it. I think the pace really picks up as you go along, and honestly I can't go without mentioning this, even though probably everyone talks about this aspect of the book, but oh my goodness, it is written in the most unique way. Like, look at this. It's just, I think it's so clever the way that this book has been compiled as an actual file. It just adds so much more to the experience of reading it. It takes a bit of time to get used to, but once you do, you've just really enjoy yourself. I can't wait to pick up the next sequel. I'm hoping it's going to be good and even better than the first one, so I'm really glad that I finally picked this up this summer. The next book that I'm going to talk about is very different from the first one, and it is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Is that how you pronounce his name? I don't know. So this is a pretty famous title, more so because of the musical adaptation of this book, but it is essentially a 20th century French classic. It is set in the Paris Opera House, and it centers around the disappearance of this really talented opera singer called Christine, and her involvement with the opera ghost called Eric. He initially appears to her to be an angel of music sent from heaven to teach her to sing. It all goes well until her childhood friend Raoul appears in the opera and they reunite with each other. He definitely has feelings for her, and this causes the opera ghost to get jealous, and eventually Christine disappears. So we follow Raoul as he tries to uncover what happened to Christine, and we slowly find out the motives of Eric as well. I was completely immersed in this book. I think I read it in 1 or 2 sittings. I love that gothic atmosphere created by the author, because we follow Eric and other characters as they go through these dark passages in the opera house. And you know, it reminded me of Wuthering Heights a little bit, because like that book, this is about obsession, a bit of violence, but it's also about that desire for love and human connection. And honestly, I really want to see the musical version now, because I love musicals and I love the story, so what could be better? Next up is a book by an author that I've been meaning to read for the longest time, and it is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. Obviously this is a really famous author and this book is particularly well known. I am so happy that I actually managed to pick up one of her books this summer. I've been meaning to for the longest time, and I absolutely loved this one. I loved the mystery. I was gripped through the whole story. This is a mystery novel that follows a group of guests that have been invited to this island. On arriving there, they never meet their host. They're not really sure why each of them was selected, but the atmosphere soon turns to panic and paranoia as each one of the guests ends up being murdered. So really this book is about this growing sense of suspicion about a fellow guest because they don't know who the murderer is, but they definitely know that he has to be amongst them. So as I said, it's really gripping. The ending is just phenomenal and very clever. I honestly cannot wait to read more of Agatha Christie if all of her books are written in this way. I have a friend who really loves her books, so I'll be pestering her for recommendations. But yeah, so definitely a 5-star read. It was thoroughly gripped, it was so suspenseful, so thrilling. I loved it. The next book that I really enjoyed this summer was Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, which I think I mentioned in my first video. I read a lot of this author this year and I love his writing style. I love the way he incorporates magic and fantasy into his books because he has really realistic elements, but he has those really strange, quirky, fantastic fantasy elements that I really love. And this has definitely been mentioned before by other reviewers, but he has that sort of style where he just gives you the fantasy, but he doesn't really explain it. It's just all left up to your imagination to really fill up those tiny, minute details, which I really love. This story follows a young man called Richard who has a pretty ordinary life. He lives in London, he has a pretty mundane job, about to get married, all that stuff. But then his life essentially turns upside down when he meets this girl called Dor. He helps her when she is injured and is in trouble, and as a result he ends up being involved in her quest to avenge her parents in this world called London Below. It pretty much is what it says. It is the London below the real London. It's a world full of really interesting creatures, really weird characters. It's a very vibrant place, but it's also very dark and a sort of neglected, if that makes sense. The ordinary people that live in the London above do not know anything about it. So basically Richard gets involved in Dor's story and we'll really see how his character begins to develop. As I said, I really love this story. I think I wasn't expecting any less from it because as soon as I read the first page I sort of knew, yep, I'm going to love this. It's not, I don't want to say that it's a complicated story, it isn't, but it's still such an enjoyable read, and I would just highly recommend this book and any other book by Neil Gaiman. I haven't read loads by him, but I'm looking forward to picking up more of his stuff because, as I said, I love his style. And so the final book that I want to talk about in this video is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Again, this is a pretty popular book. I know there are loads of different opinions about it, but I genuinely loved it. I don't want to say a lot about the plot of this one because I personally didn't know much when I went into it. I only knew that there was some random circus that appears out of nowhere and no one really knows anything about it. That's all I knew. I wasn't really aware of who the characters were or what the real plot of it was, but that didn't stop me from enjoying it. So really it's up to you about how much you want to find out before going into this, but I knew very little and I still really loved it. The plot and the characters are not overly complicated, but I think that matches the fact that this book is very much focused with the atmosphere it creates. Honestly, I would recommend this book on the pure basis of the amazing setting that Erin Morgenstern has created in this book. The majority of the story does take place in the night circus, and really it is the most magnificent place. I mean, could someone get me a ticket so that I could go there and visit it myself, because it sounds like an experience of a lifetime. The magic and the fantasy elements are just amazing. Like, I can't describe it. It is beautiful, it's really imaginative. You're just so thoroughly engaged with the story and with the magic that happens. So if anything, I think it's that element of this book that really appealed to me. It did remind me of Neil Gaiman stuff a little bit, even though they are quite different. Really, the atmosphere just captivates you entirely. It is just breathtaking. I think there's no point of me saying anything else. I just really recommend you go and pick it up and discover for yourself how just amazing this world is. I really wish there was a sequel to it, just because I want to know more about the night circus, but as it is, I really enjoyed this, and it was definitely a 4 or 5 stars, I can't remember. So these were all my favourite books from this summer. As you can tell, I loved every single one of them. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of these books, and as I said before, please share some of your favourite reads from the summer. But other than that, hopefully there'll be more videos to come, and I will see you guys later. Bye!